welcome to the joint candidate forum hosted by the Fort Worth Report, KERA, and Steer Fort Worth. I'm Thomas Martinez, the Fort Worth Report's managing editor. Tonight, you'll hear first from candidates for the Fort Worth Independent School Board. School Board. After that, we'll hear from candidates in this order for the Tarrant County College Board of Trustees, and then the Tarrant Regional Water District Board of Directors. Candidates will have 1 minute to introduce themselves and 1 minute to answer each of the questions posed to them. Those questions came from our reporters, who in some cases solicited thoughts from the candidates and from our Steer Fort Worth partners. Thank you all for telling us what you'd like to know about each candidate's priorities. Rebuttals will not be allowed, and candidates will be given 1 minute for closing remarks after the questions conclude. Candidates, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Tobi, we'll start with introductions with you. 1 minute.
Thank you. My name is Tobi Jackson. I am currently the president of the Fort Worth ISD Board of Trustees. I have been on the school board for 13 years. I have had 3 terms on the school board. I was asked by city council and other neighborhood members to run, and I did so in 2010. I've enjoyed every moment of it. I work on opportunity gaps for students, and that's how I work. So when we see gaps for students, I work to lift those gaps, be they in attendance, be they in academia, be they in higher needs on campuses. And that also corresponds with the work that I do, which is with a nonprofit, Fort Worth Spark, and we work exceptionally well in the highest need areas to fill gaps that kids have that other organizations are not filling. Thank you.
I should mention that we have 2 groups of candidates up here tonight. Candidates running for District 2, which include Pat Carlson and Tobi Jackson. Pat Carlson could not be here tonight. And then we have 3 candidates running for District 3, and they are Martasia James, Quinton Phillips, and Valerie Navarez could not be here either. So sorry for my negligence in not mentioning that sooner. Martasia, your opening.
Hi, my name is Martasia James. I am a proud graduate from Dunbar High School. I currently hold my bachelor's in criminal justice and my master's in juvenile case studies and minor in psychology. I currently volunteer and help out at Metro Opportunity School, and where I partner with Big Thought, which is a nonprofit that helps with SEL and restorative justice practices. I'm currently an expecting mother and would like to try to change the things that have taken place within our school so that when my child is able to attend, she's able to receive what I received while I was in public education.
Thank you. Mr. Phillips?
Good evening, everyone. Delighted to be here this evening. Thankful to all the folks who put this on. Thanks for providing the platform, allowing us to be able to speak about the race and everything that we have going on. My name is Quinton Phillips. Everyone calls me Q. Please feel free to do so. Currently serve as the board vice president as well as the trustee representing District 3. District 3 is the place where I'm born and raised, particularly in the Stop 6 neighborhood. Graduate of Dunbar High School as well. Was able to continue my education at Prairie View A&M University as well as Eastern University for graduate studies. And I'm a husband, I'm a father, and I'm going to return on the investment for all those folks who poured into me along the way to allow me to be able to sit here today. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity that I've been provided and hope to continue in that capacity.
Thank you. We will now get into the questions. This first question is directly for Tobi. Tobi, you've been on a school board for more than a decade. You've seen some issues like enrollment and deficit rise. What have you done to combat those issues?
Well, first and foremost, the most important thing we can do is educate the community on how our schools are performing and accurately do so. And in 2019, we had 41 schools that were performing at A and B ratings from the state of Texas. In 2022, that number moved to 75. So one thing we've worked on is working to comply with the state's requirements to ensure that our schools are schools all over this city that equitably provide and equally provide an opportunity for students to move into the same services, be they STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, or be they another area that they're interested in. Every child in every neighborhood should have the same opportunity. And I believe that we've shown over those 3 years, especially the last 3 years, that we've moved the needle quite a bit academically.
Thank you. The other two candidates will answer a very similar question to that. Martasia, as a trustee, how would you combat declining enrollment and fraught finances?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
How would you combat declining enrollment and fraught finances?
I would make sure that it's made sure to our parents of what it is that our schools are able to offer within our communities. In the school board, in the District 3 area, I feel as though that our schools, such as Dunbar Aviation Program, isn't being, it isn't having a lot of light shine on it to let parents know what it is that their child can be offered at the Dunbar High School and the engineering program that they have there as well. I would bring more attention to that and allow parents to know about that option that they have for their kids, and just the YMLA option as well too, so that their kids are able to receive the extra benefits they're wanting or needing for that child or their needs.
Thank you. Q, would you like to answer or the question again?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. As far as it comes to, when we're talking about enrollment, as far as when I even first ran for the board, it was a conversation I was having with family members that were all Fort Worth ISD graduates. And we were having this conversation as we were beginning to have our own children about where we were going to put our students, where we're going to put our own kids. And we were exploring all of these options, and thankfully we were of means to be able to talk about charters because we have the transportation to be able to take them where we want to go. Having the conversation about private schools because we have the means to be able to make that happen if we needed to. But we kept on reducing Fort Worth ISD schools as Fort Worth ISD graduates. And so one of the biggest things is to be able to convince my own community as well as myself that we need to invest in Fort Worth ISD by putting our own kids in there, because if we are not invested as parents first, as community members first, how are we going to expect enrollment to be able to go to where it's supposed to? So really putting my own skin in the game in that, as well as various other ways.
Thank you. Martasia, you'll answer this question first. The superintendent is the one employee who directly answers to the school board. As a trustee, what would you set as your expectations for her?
The expectations I would set for her would be her going into the schools and seeing exactly what it is that the schools are needing at those locations. For instance, Metro Opportunity School is an alternative school where we send a lot of our children to when they're coming to school with vape pens or having fights. And a lot of times we send kids there who are already having altercations or issues with students who are already being sent there. So it just make it make sense. Why would we send kids that already got into a fight with each other to the same school where high school is lower level and middle school is higher level, and they have to take those same classes or they're going to bump into each other at any given point? I want her to come inside and see what it is that the teachers are struggling with while they are working with the children, and then see where it is that they're lacking support with staff and teachers, and see the load that the teachers are having to put onto themselves when it comes to our kids altogether.
Q, would you like the question repeated or?
Yeah, please, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. The superintendent is the one employee who directly answers to the school board.
Yeah.
As a trustee, what would you set as your expectations for her?
Yeah, so one, I feel like we did a fantastic job on our superintendent search, and The beautiful thing about that superintendent search when we did it, it really did do a great job of bringing cohesion amongst our board, us being able to know one another even better, work with one another. We set out the expectations for our superintendent, and the superintendent's expectations we have is that you get the job done on student outcomes. Because when people are coming to the school board meetings, when people are talking to us in the community, they're talking about our kids not reading on grade level. We're talking about, the dilapidation in some of our schools and how we need to keep facilities up. All the things that we also are talking about as a board on how we need to fix. And so one of the best ways you can fix anything is to make sure you have a leader in place that's going to be able to implement the things that are going to need to be there in order for those things to be fixed. I think we did a great job of picking that person. Now the expectation is for her to do that job well, for us as a board to not only hold her accountable, but also empower her to be able to do the job that we know needs to be done to actually get the outcomes we're looking for.
Toby, would you like to question?
Thank you. No, I'm good. The superintendent is the sole employee of the board, of the 9-member board. And this is a diverse board from throughout the city with single-member districts, yet we have to function as a cohesive unit to serve all students and all schools. Communication is key, and I will explain very briefly that we were told 19% of our kids were on level at a meeting. That was the highest standard. However, when you look at the standards, approaches is also passing with the state. So 43% of our ELL students were passing, 51% or all others were passing. I talked to her about that immediately, about the communication. We don't want to be disingenuous, but we also don't want to say to students, you're not performing when they are. So that's one. Visibility in our schools, she's there all the time. Fiscal responsibility. We have an $850 million budget and a $1.2 billion bond, and thanks to the taxpayers, we're also closing up a $750 million bond. So, thank you.
Thank you. Q, you'll go first with this question.
Yes, sir.
How would you encourage more parents to engage with their students' schools, especially when not every campus has a PTA?
Yeah, and how long we getting? 1 minute to answer the questions?
Yes.
Man, you got to be succinct. Yeah, okay, let me get it in. All right. It's actually doing exactly that. It's encouraging parents to be involved in the life of their student and in the life of our campus. The best way to do that is by communication and it's by customer service. We have to have the type of campuses where parents feel welcome to come into the school in order to be able to know what's happening. They have to have the kind of communication in place to know what is happening at the school for them to be involved with. The onus, in my estimation, is on the parents first when it comes to education. I want to educate my kids first. And I utilize the schools to help bolster that education that I'm giving them at home, right? For them to be able to help bolster the things that I'm already responsible for teaching them. And so if I know that I'm teaching them right, I know that I'm putting them in a place to where they're going to be able to bolster those things that I'm giving them. It has to be a warm, welcoming environment for parents to know how they can be involved. And then once they're there, that they actually are valued and welcomed.
Thank you. Toby, would you like the question?
No, thank you. Communication, 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 multiple modalities, whether that are text messages to parents, whether those are door knock sessions where you go and knock on their door and you meet people, whether those are events in the neighborhood. We have to communicate with parents on their level. And when I say that, some people work 2 and 3 jobs. 6 a.m. may be the right time for some. 6 p.m. may be the right time for others, and we have to respect that. Also, we need to engage our alums, our educators, and our trustees, get out in this community and engage people. We have to have activities that will engage individuals, and we have to also respect our parents, listen to them, and when they have an idea or an opportunity, we need to explore that and move forward with it. I think the most important thing with our community is that people must feel, as Trustee Phillips said, welcome in our schools. And we passed a resolution a couple of years ago to make sure that all felt welcome in our schools. And that's something that's key and very important to this entire board. Thank you.
Thank you. Martasia, would you like to question? Are you good?
Yes, I agree with both Toby and Q when they said making them feel warm, but we also need to try something different. We're always calling in on the children when there's a truancy problem, when there's a behavior problem. What if we call the parents and let them know how the kids are doing good and that we would like to see them at this next event? Or we have this event coming up to the school. We would like to see you here. We have college night, or we're having open house. Going door to door, being there so that they can develop a relationship with the trustees, with the people who are a part of the school, because it's not just the trustees who are trying to reach out to the parents, it's also the teachers, the staff and support team at the schools as well. And so we need to do a better job at that. But we need to also be sending emails and, like Toby said, text messages if need be as well. But we just need to make sure that we make it more than just a parents come out type of thing, but make it so that they feel as though, well, my child is excelling here, my child is wanted here. This is where I can see my child being able to thrive at. Events, hosting events, and making sure that they know about these events as well.
Thank you. Toby, you can go first on this question. Fort Worth ISD voters narrowly passed a $1.2 billion bond in 2021 as enrollment was declining. How would you make sure this bond money is spent in a way with the concern the superintendent has outlined that the district needs to close schools because of enrollment declines?
Yes, we do need to close some schools, but it takes everybody in this room's voice being heard. That's the first part of it, because people care about their schools. They're in their heart, they're in their soul, they're in their mind, probably a song. But they are. People have memories in schools. People have memories at Farrington Field. So the first thing is getting through to everybody and finding out which schools they're comfortable with being closed. Also then educating people and explaining to them the amount of money it is costing for us to run this school with 200 students. If we move these students to another school, the amenities they will have and the better instruction or opportunities they will have will increase appreciably. Parents want what's best for their kids, and so we will have to close some schools. More than that, at the same time that we're looking at closing some schools, we have to move and look at the schools that we actually need. And that bond is $1.2 billion, but every dollar counts now because cost of labor and materials are going up.
Martasia, would you like the question again?
Yes, please.
Sure. Fort Worth ISD voters narrowly passed a $1.2 billion bond in 2021 as enrollment was declining. How would you make sure this bond money is spent in a way with the concern the superintendent has outlined that the district needs to close schools because of enrollment declines?
There needs to be community parental guardian forums to let people know what is needing to be done within the schools before actions like such are taking place. Parents, guardians, a lot of them aren't being made aware of the schools that are being closed down, or they hear rumors and next thing you know, oh, it's not happening. I would hate for my alma mater to be closed down, especially with the impact that they have made on people within my community, all the people who's been able to go out and give back and come back to the school. It would be really disheartening to come back and see that the school is closed down. But with that being said, we recently just discontinued with Fallon Academy. And with that money that we just spent, they could have been allocated to different schools or to schools that are needing the help. So I would say we need to be more organized and more involved when it comes to our parents, our community, so that they are aware of what is taking place, so that this isn't blindsiding to them.
Thank you. Q, do you need the question again?
No, I think it was transparency about the bond, and and even in the preface to it, saying that the bond barely passed, it did. I mean, narrow margin, and that says volumes. I'm grateful it passed. I do feel like we need to do more improvements. We need to be able to do the things that we're going to be able to accomplish with that bond. But that absolutely was a community speaking too. That there was wavering. That there was trepidation on whether or not we should be trusted again to be able to go forth and do more with those dollars. But now that that trust has been instilled, now it's about the transparency. It's about making sure that the Citizens Oversight Committee, it's about making sure that the people actually know and hear about what's happening with bonds, having real timelines, staying on top of communication when it comes to those things. People just want transparency. People want to know what's going on, and we have to provide that to them. So the more that we bolster that communication properly, and people really get to know what's happening, really get to see progress, then people will be pleased with, I know, what the outcomes are going to be. So we just have to make sure that we're being transparent and that we're communicating properly for folks to really know that those dollars are being spent exactly where we said they're going to be.
Thank you. Martasia, you can go first with this question. Where do you think the district needs improvement, and how would you tackle it?
I believe that the district needs improvement when it comes to our kids' education. And I would tackle it by hosting more Saturday schools and programs of instilling more of the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's really sad when our high schoolers are at the point of getting ready to graduate from high school and are barely able to formulate a complete sentence or know the correct spelling of simple things such as sight words. Or at this point now, our kids are writing papers on their STAR test as if they are texting friends. I will focus more so on making sure that the kids are able to understand and retain what it is that they're being taught in their classes so they can prevail when it comes to the future. A lot of our kids aren't interested in going to college, but there are options as far as trades that they can learn. And we should be able to open doors such as that for them to be able to have accessible means to those things as well.
You?
Yeah, community engagement and community involvement is exactly where we need to be when it comes to improvement. Meaningful community engagement, not placating, because that's been done before by this body and other bodies, where we say, okay, we're going out there and we're listening, or we say we do, but not really taking advantage of truly listening, truly soliciting that feedback, bringing that feedback back, and making great decisions based around what the community is telling us. And so we do have some great people that come down to the school board meeting and talk all the time about what's going on. But there's such a large section of the community that'll stop me in the neighborhood, that'll talk to me in other venues, but they're not coming and saying those things publicly as well. We got to welcome the engagement. We got to want people to come and tell us what's going on. We got to have the ear of folks. We got to have beautiful brains in this community, understanding that this is all of our school district. I'm very proud to represent District 3, but I ain't the king of District 3. That's our seat, everybody. So we got to be able to talk and engage and figure out what's going to be best so we can instill those values into the boardroom, which is going to matriculate throughout the entire school district. We got to make it all of ours.
Thank you. Toby?
Thank you. First, stronger and sincere communication, always. Vetting that communication, not only through the school board, but through the parental body, having different teams of community members that will listen to your messaging and make sure it's right so it has the largest effect on the largest number of people. From the mayor of this city, Mayor Parker, to neighborhood associations, everybody asks, how can we be involved? We have to have a 1, 2, 3 of how you can be involved. We also need externships, clerkships, internships for our students. And that's hugely important, and that means that we need stronger messaging to ask for that. Consistency in curriculum. Let's not buy another curriculum. Let's use what we have right now, and let's keep it going. We have to look at that for objectivity, reliability, and validity to make sure that we're doing the right thing for our kids. And finally, strong athletics, health, phys ed programs. People need to want to come to school, and I believe they do, but we can do a better job, and we will.
Thank you. We will have one more question before we go to closing statements. We'll start this one with Q. Trustees are responsible for many vendor decisions in the district. How would you ensure transparency in those decisions and make sure there are no conflicts of interest in contracts?
Yeah, much like I did during my first term. It's about allowing people to do their jobs the way they're supposed to do their jobs. And trustees understanding, using our statement is me understanding what my role is, and my role is not selection of vendors, right? We have a procurement process for that. We have a superintendent that are able to select the inputs, because ultimately, that's who we're gonna be holding accountable to whether something worked, whether something didn't work. So me coming to tell her she needs to implement this certain thing or hire a certain vendor, how am I gonna evaluate her later and say whether or not something was good or bad if I'm the one that was trying to put it in place? Allow the superintendent to do the job. We hired her for a reason. We feel like she's adequate, she's capable, adequate, intelligent enough to be able to do the job. Allowing that to happen, and then if we have policies, procedures in place, following them with fidelity. If we do those things, then the superintendent will be selecting the inputs. Our procurement process will have the standards it's supposed to have, and then we'll get the vendors that we're supposed to have in the school district, not because any trustee picked them.
Thank you. Toby?
Thank you. First of all, transparency. We had a special ethics policy, and our ethics policy is $2,000 per vendor. The state of Texas, Texas ethics requires $2,500 as the maximum, but we lowered ours to $2,000 because we thought that exemplified a higher standard for our trustees. And that's very important to note. It's the strongest ethics policy in North Texas. Secondarily, holding the superintendent accountable and making sure that she delivers. When we do that, we have to follow, as Trustee Phillips says, the protocols of procurement. And if we don't, we jam up the process, and what happens in the end is children lose. And I've watched it happen for over a decade. When we get overly involved, children lose. So we have to remember to follow the rules, and we also have to be at the table when those rules are set and make sure that we're doing the right thing always for children.
Thank you. Martasia?
Would you mind repeating the question, please?
Sure. Trustees are responsible for many vendor decisions in the district. How would you ensure transparency in those decisions and make sure there are no conflicts of interest in contracts?
I would make sure that the decision and when deciding third-party vendors to come, if they really are beneficial to our kids, and what is it that we can see that they're going to produce or help the children with or the school with in the future. And I will also say holding the superintendent accountable, but also holding the trustees accountable as well, because the trustees are the ones who are coming to her with their ideas or suggestions on third-party vendors. And one third-party vendor that we currently have, I feel as though is doing a good job within the schools. And I applaud Worth ISD for having them there because they are doing their job with that. And I would also like to say that with the trustees being on top of it with their job, it'll push the superintendent to be on top of it with her job.
Thank you. We will now have closing remarks, and we'll begin with you, Toby.
It's been my honor and privilege to serve the Fort Worth ISD for 13 years. It's a job that I've taken very seriously, and I've attended every board meeting. I think I'm the only trustee nerd in the history of the board that's done so. I love the job I do, and I believe that when we're in a campaign, it sharpens our skills and it makes us stronger. It makes us think about what we can do better. And what I see that I can do better is have stronger communication in this community. As a Fort Worth ISD graduate, as a lifelong East Sider, both of my children were students, are both graduates of Fort Worth ISD schools. I have a lot of pride in this city and a lot of pride in this school district. And I want to make sure that I utilize the decade of experience I've had to help us pull through this $1.2 billion bond, acclimate this new superintendent, hold her accountable, and get this young team of trustees ready to lead on their own, and I can go off to another pasture. Thank you.
Thank you. Martasia? Closing. Yes.
Our children should be able to have teachers and trustees, a school board that is advocating for them and thinking of their future, and a place where they are able to feel safe to come to, a place in which they're able to learn and thrive. And I know that they're needing the support and the community and the team behind them. I'm asking for an opportunity to try and make a change and to be the difference and to be a voice. And if you think that I'm not doing enough or that I'm not doing my job after I am elected or if I'm put into place, then vote me out. But I'm asking for a chance to be able to make a difference and speak for my District 3 if elected as District 3 School Board Trustee.
Thank you. Q?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I was asked a little bit earlier at another one of these about, why should people vote for you? And it's such a difficult question for me to answer in the sense of I've already been in the job for a term. So now it really is about whether or not you feel like I've done that job well or I haven't. And if I haven't, there are other candidates to be able to select from now. And that is democracy, right? That's why the seat is there. Because if you feel like I haven't carried out the visions and your values, if I haven't led with integrity, if I haven't done the job, someone else should have the job. But if I have done those things, I've placed myself out there to be able to continue to do the job and do the job even better. So that's what it really boils down to for me, is that I want to be able to represent my district and not be able to merely in the future. Preferably, I already have represented the people well, with integrity, with character. And that's what I plan on continuing to do. And I feel like that continuity and leadership will actually get us to the place that I know that all of us really want us to be able to go.
Thank you, and I just want to take a minute to thank all three candidates for being here tonight and sharing their thoughts and letting us get to know them a little bit more. So a round of applause for all of them.